Shavua Tov, everyone. We are live doing our once a week discussion on Bitachon. So this is the interactive night. All the other nights we learn from the text of Shaar HaBitachon, the instructions of how to apply Bitachon to all types of categories and situations in life as outlined 970 years ago by Rabbeinu Bachya. The challenge is, how do we convert those instructions to modern day situations? How do we live with bitachon, with a sense of betach, that everything is going to be okay, with a sense of menuchas hanefesh that flows from that certainty? I want to remind everyone who is on, until we get to the question-answer format, question-answer section, let us put ourselves on mute, besides our special guest, who I'm going to announce in a moment. But before I introduce her, I want to explain to those who are new what we are doing this one night a week. So the other nights of the week, it is what it's called, the daily dose of Shaar HaBitachon, the daily dose of the Gate of Trust. And it is the first book of its kind where Rabbeinu Bachya, Ibn Pekuda, gathered from every single text that he had available to him, across the Talmud, across the Tanakh, across the Midrashim, wherever he was able to find a instruction pertaining to the duties of the heart, how we're supposed to serve Hashem, as far as what we tell ourselves, and what beliefs we should develop, and what understandings we should study, until we've mastered it to the extent that our brain can understand. So they are instructions of the heart, how to use our heart, 7 gates in all. The fourth one is Shaar HaBitachon, and he did so. I want to ask everyone to please mute yourselves so that we could focus. Thank you. So the purpose of Shaar HaBitachon having been written is to give us a one-stop shop, like a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, of how to live with Bitachon. Rabbeinu Bachya saw that there are many books, many organized compilations of how to serve Hashem with our body, the Chayvis HaIvarim, the duties of our limbs, but how to live, the instructions that we are supposed to follow as far as how to direct our thoughts, what beliefs to hold on to, what thoughts to think about, what ideas to learn about in order to take charge of our thoughts, what cognitive behavioral therapies, so to speak, back 1,000 years ago. That approach of how to utilize the principles that our mind creates our feelings, and our feelings not just towards Hashem, but our feelings towards life situations, that principle was scattered all throughout the Torah in a bunch of different and obscure places, and it was impossible, unless someone learned the entire Torah, they would not have access to know exactly how Hashem wants us to respond to real life situations. So he wrote the book 970 years ago, and that's why we're learning it every single night of the week, Bezrat Hashem. Besides, once a week, instead of learning it from the text, we're learning it from people who embody, who live Bitachon. So with no further ado, Miriam Geltman is a life coach. I like to call her a Bitachon coach based on the recommendations that people gave me. They tell me that she's not just teaching classes and coaching clients in how to face all types of life situations with a Bitachon or a Torah-informed mindset, but she is someone who embodies it in her personal life. She has faced tremendous challenges and has been practicing, has been living with what it means to have a graceful approach, a Bitachon-informed approach, a sense of perspective that is Torah-informed, and as a result, she is able to not just live it, but she's able to teach it to others. And her reputation precedes her, so there were many people who recommended her, and this is why we are blessed, we are thankful, and I am personally thanking her on behalf of everyone for agreeing to join us. And we're going to divide tonight's discussion into 2 parts. Segment 1, I want Miriam, in her own words, to introduce herself what she went through personally and how she became a life coach, Bitachon coach, a success coach. And then the second part, we will open up the phone lines, as it were, only through WhatsApp, for those who want to ask specific questions, because it's about how to apply the Bitachon principles we're learning the other nights of the week in Shaar Bitachon, how to apply them to real-world situations. So, Rebbetzin Miriam, I don't know how to address you, Coach Miriam.
I think just Miriam is fine. Hello, everyone. Shabbat tov, good to go. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's an honor and a pleasure. I'm just going to be, I don't know if it's better to have a video. You could have a video if it helps people, just for me. If not, this way is also fine.
We would have to change the link. So
I'm just going to share my experience, my latest experience that really embodied what I understand Bitachon is, and it might not sit right with all of you how I went about it and what I applied and what I thought at the moment or after, etc., because it's my living experience. It's how I went through certain things, and for me, it was a challenge, at the same time a learning experience, at the same time an honor to come close to such difficult, in a way, test and opportunity to go through, feel myself in it, and be able to share with others. I'm a life coach and I'm a therapist. I never called myself a Bitachon coach, but in this format, I think it's fitted to say Bitachon coach, because looking back 20 years since I started coaching people, I think this whole idea of Bitachon was in me since I started. But as the life tests come in, you become more enriched with the wisdom and ideas and understanding. And it's not only a mental process, it actually becomes an avoda, like it becomes you. It becomes something that you can't apart from. So about 6 years ago, I met my husband, who recently passed away. And it was my second marriage, and for him it was the first marriage. And we built a family, and we have, Baruch Hashem, a 3-year-old boy who is a gorgeous boy. And I just want to share with you how everything unfolded and what happened and how I took it, how we went through it as a couple, how we went through it as a family, and what exactly went on with me last few months, taking care of my husband, etc. So as I said, Bitachon, usually in my world, was mostly some ideas, some mental concepts, some beautiful stories, and from Chassidus that I learned in Machon Chana, being a madricha there, and later on a teacher, and I used to teach a lot of deep Chassidus and some offers about the difference between Emunah and Bitachon, and how is it different, and how is Bitachon more on a level of das. It actually becomes knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you, knowing that He assists you while you are tested, and etc. Everything that I've learned was an idea, and I understood as I was going through this major challenge in the last 3-4 years with my husband. I understood how different it is from living through it instead of knowing it in a mental concept. So firstly, just a story, right? When I found out that I was expecting 2 months into pregnancy, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And that's another thing that, like a lot of people might take it offensive. I will share some personal details because I think it will impact the whole story. when we were not sure. We just had some symptoms, and he was going first tests. And when he finally found out that he has cancer, the first thing he said to a doctor, whoever it was, radiologist, my wife is expecting, and I don't know if I want to tell her. So the doctor brought me in and started the story from far. We don't know yet for sure. There has to be other tests. I actually had a feeling it was something more serious than we thought initially. And then my husband didn't like that, like walking around in circles and not making a clear point. And he said, she's a big girl, she could handle. And I'm pregnant, and I'm not a young person to be pregnant. It's my 7th pregnancy. And I was 45 or almost 45, whatever it was. And I just got this news, like your husband has a cancer and it's a 3rd stage and all the rest of it. So, of course, we were stunned. We were taken by that. And the whole entire pregnancy was about healing him, understanding what's the best way to heal him, and how the pregnancy was not in the picture. And we basically went through more challenges, because as he was trying to understand, and both of us are, I would say, health freaks, and something like chemo and radiation is not an option for, it wasn't an option for my husband. I didn't know much about it to choose, but as he tried a first round of chemo, he understood it's not for him. And here the search for holistic and different alternative methods began, and we were hopping and choosing and trying and tzaddikim and brachas and different ideas and latest studies, etc., etc. And he quit completely the regular therapy, traditional therapy, and he went on the path of trying different holistic stuff. And basically, as we were in the middle of all that, there was a point that the growth stopped, and then the growth shrunk, and then the growth was actually growing, and then at the end he was diagnosed basically with end stage. At that point, a friend of ours, who actually right now is going through a lot of health challenges, recommended this clinic in Germany. And at the end stage, basically no oncologists are able to help, and they just send you home. And we went to Germany within a couple of days. It's a huge undertaking for us. I think it was over $30,000 for us to gather within a couple of days and pack the suitcases and go to a place that we don't know what and who and where. And we went, and as he came back last April, so since last April till December, basically, he was bedridden, and I took care of him. And whether Germany clinic helped or not, it's hard to tell, because he lived almost a year since then. So we're grateful and thankful for everything.
And can I interrupt? This is Sure. Such a sensitive part of the story, and you're describing the matrix part of the reality. You're describing his condition. You're describing the diagnosis and the stage 3. You're describing how the doctors rendered themselves as unable to help. And you're describing the actions you took on a medical level, on an intervention level, at great cost. Could you pause before you continue in the story and share a little bit about what your thought process and your inner experience was during this unimaginably difficult time?
Right. So I was going to get there. Thank you so much for stopping me. I just wanted to give a full picture of where we were and how we ended and what happened.
Sure.
But the process of, I could only speak for myself. He was young. He had different thoughts. There was definitely, from what I saw, a denial. He definitely did not want to admit that it's deadly and that's going to be the end. and I honored him. I'll tell you from the very beginning, I was pressured that it's my responsibility to make sure I convince him that he should do chemo from family and from close friends. Some people looked down at me and challenged me like, come on, he would listen to you. He listened to you before, and he respects your opinion. I don't know how all of you practice Bitachon. To me, it's through different meditations. I usually either take a walk alone, or I tune in and I just look inside. And I basically communicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I said, the main thing I'm asking, help me to do what's right in your eyes. I didn't want to be righteous in somebody else's eyes. I didn't want to be a righteous wife. I didn't want to be looking good and acting right and forcing when it's needed and convincing when it's needed. My only wish was to make sure Hashem is okay with what I do. And not necessarily with what I do, but how I feel at the moment. I definitely wanted to feel I'm at service. I felt like whatever is placed in front of me, it's not up to me. As much as people want to fight with reality or tell me, oh, you could fight the reality, you could manifest this and that. In my belief system or understanding of what Yiddishkeit taught me and Chassidus taught me, what's placed in front of you, this is what Hashem wants. And now the question is how you're going to feel about it, what you're going to think about it, how you're going to express gratitude in all that mess. What exactly is going to happen to you? And I said to myself, Miriam, what's going to happen to you going through all that? Here you are pregnant. A lot of people thought I was crazy to be pregnant at 45. And not only that, we just moved from Israel and it's COVID and we don't really have much income, etc. And here's cancer. And the cancer is at the stage where it's like 1 minute of extra thinking or too prolonged thinking could really be taken to a wrong place. And I did know that I could convince him. And I did know I could make sure to pressure him. But I always said, and that's what came to me at the moment of my meditation and my process of communicating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is his life. It's his life, and your job is to stand by and understand how could you be at the best assistance. And when he told me there is no chemo, no way there is chemo, I said, Abraham, there's no chemo. But what are we doing? And there was never trying to impose, trying to outsmart, trying to converge, etc. So, and at you arrived. Your destination will be on your left.
Hold on. I want to remind everyone to please make sure your phone is on mute. We have quite a substantial audience, so even one. Thank you. Okay, continue, please.
Right.
Actually, let's use that as an opportunity to summarize the profound bomb you just dropped. I'll call it a atom bomb of insight. You said, and this is not just for relationships, it's for our relationship with everything that we desire or wish or have a preference for. You said that you consciously and intentionally unsubscribed from trying to change that which was presented in front of you, and you shifted all of your attention towards your intention to do the will of Hashem in the way you think about it, in the way you process it, in the way it impacts you. So you took responsibility for what you're going to think. You took responsibility for what you're going to say, and you took responsibility for how does my husband need me to show up for him in a way that I am supportive, and instead of trying to fight or resist what he became attached to.
Right. So at this point, I really felt there is no right or wrong. Every neshama is going through its own path. and there is certain challenges that they are facing, and they have to get somewhere in their transformation or in their maturity or development. And I clearly felt there is no right or wrong, as till the last days, I always heard people communicate to me, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, this is how we serve Hashem, this is how we don't serve Hashem, this is what, and I sensed it so clearly where there is a mental explanation and where there is like checked in within your das, within your knowing, serving Hashem. It was like vibrationally completely different energy. When people communicated just ideas, don't do this, and do that, and there's 20,000 different ideas. Or there was just like really attaching yourself to Hashem, knowing that what's in front of you, it's not up to you. You don't decide who has cancer and at what age and how they go about it. You are in charge of how you pursue. Do you judge people? Do you put them down? Do you judge your husband? Do you make sure he feels awkward, he doesn't feel support? You take somebody else's side, etc., etc. And I really felt that bitachon shift in me, that trust in God in me at that point. Never before I sensed that difference. And like last few weeks that Hatzola used to come and go, there's always one person who would take me out and would say, you have to be ready. You know what's going to come, what's about to come. You have to be ready. And I always came back inside and I said to myself, I cannot be ready for something that's not here. When something will come, I will be given strength to deal. Right now, I don't have that strength, and I'm not going to pretend I have that strength. And that's what exactly I think bitachon is. It's not a mental concept. When you are tested and you are have enough resources to recenter yourself and know where to go and who to be responsible for, you are given strength at that moment for this specific situation. I don't think it could be applied somewhere else, anywhere else, even in my own life, in a different test. But for this specific challenge that you're going to, you are given strength if you are collecting yourself and centering yourself.
Can I jump in again? You're speaking
Sure.
some very to what to many might feel like very revolutionary ideas, especially when you're talking about shifting your attention from trying to change someone else's strongly held position to asking yourself, how does Hashem want me to process, and how does Hashem require me to respond to this challenge? So shifting your attention towards centering yourself to the point where you actually have a sense of peace, that you're seeing your own lane or you're seeing your own responsibility as not being charged with the outcome of the cancer, Rahman al-Islam. You didn't allow yourself to become attached to the desire of changing the other person's position, the other person's decision. And whatever actions you took was that of a supportive role and allowing that which he was firmly invested in to be respected. So what it tells me, for those who feel that this is a little bit revolutionary, to not try to insist or manipulate or pressure someone into what you believe might be a life-saving protocol. So Rabbeinu Bachya, actually 970 plus years ago, talks exactly about this in the beginning of Perek Revi. He says that medical outcomes are not results of what we do in terms of our medical efforts. The only reason we take those measures to find out what is a good approach according to medical science is because we have a mitzvah to go through those motions, to take those measures and to explore and to act within the laws of nature. But it's a mitzvah to act within the laws of nature, but it's not a mitzvah that is necessarily linked to the outcome. They're two separate animals. One is a mitzvah, how Hashem wants me to behave in this circumstance, and the other is Hashem's business, the outcome. And the outcome is decided only by Hashem and not decided by whether or not we comply with the mitzvah of making a hishtadlus within the laws of nature. And when we recognize this clarity, that Hashem controls outcomes, Hashem is in the outcomes department, we are in the efforts department, then we can ask the right question: what efforts does Hashem want me to make in this unique circumstance when the other person, in this case, took this position? How does Hashem want me to respond to that? But it takes off a lot of the pressure when we recognize that neither him nor myself are in control of the outcome. That remains under the full control of Hashem. So therefore, our focus only has to be, as you said, how am I going to process? How am I going to think of? How am I going to experience and allow this to impact me? Will it be with a bitachon mindset, a sense of security and confidence that Hashem is in control and Hashem is being kind to us? Or will it be with a mindset of stress, victimization, anger, trying to control that which we anyways cannot, because it's not in our control in the first place? Life and death is in the hands of Hashem.
Right. Thank you so much. So the way I felt, and it wasn't necessarily understood, like now I could go back and process my thought process, what happened there. But I felt if I start fighting the cancer or help him fight in that rigid way, like this is something off, it shouldn't be happening to me, with those concepts, or it shouldn't be happening to my spouse, etc., I, so to speak, come in a place of Hashem. That's how I felt. So I felt like it's not that we are not proactive. We are proactive. Like there's two modes of me at that time that I was feeling. One is what is happening is absolutely right and it has its place and there is no mistake. And Hashem knows what he is doing and it's beyond my comprehension. So I give my full acceptance. I accept it. And with that as a base, I could go and be proactive and be helpful and be supportive and be there and show up. And in fact, that first step gives me energy. That first step as a preface helps me be supportive. Not that I am supportive. When I am supportive, I don't have strength. But when I invite Hashem in and he becomes in charge and he knows what he's doing better than me, then all of a sudden I have this tremendous strength and I have wisdom and I'm actually supportive and I'm not creating more mess for a person. And there's a lot of his presence actively activated in a way, if you know what I mean.
Wow. It reminds me of the serenity prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you use the word wisdom. Wisdom is having discernment. Wisdom is having clarity where to focus our energy, where it's going to be productive, and where to withdraw our energy because it's going to be like screaming in the wind. It's going to be unproductive. And we have to know what our lane is, what our role is, what our job and what Hashem expects of us in a situation. And it sounds to me that you're saying once you were clear about who is really in control of the outcomes, it was a lot easier to ask the right questions. So now that I'm not in control of the outcomes, Hashem is, how would Hashem like me to respond to the facts on the ground?
Right. So to me, it was very clear that a lot of people get really, like from what I communicated, if you have a bitachon or a muna, that means you are passive. That means you're not going to do anything. That's what the messages I used to get. But if you are proactive, that means you have, and you're fighting, that's the word constantly I heard. That means you are with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I completely understood it in a different way. I felt there's two modes, specifically two phases in approaching this whole thing. You definitely have to be grateful. Hashem, you put me in front of this. There's some hidden blessings here for all involved, including our 3-year-old child, as much as it doesn't make sense to any human being. There is definitely hidden blessings for us as a couple. I'm only grateful to you. And that's the first actually feeling, talking, understanding, communicating. And it's not necessarily that I had to speak that in front of my husband. It's between me and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'm not in charge what went on in his mind. That's his job. And I'm not here to teach him or explain to him what's the right way to go about it. He has his own personal connection with Hashem. It's a very intimate relationship. So I'm just sharing what went on in my heart. There was no fight anymore. There was no, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to win over it. That energy was not present at all. There was definitely an energy of, it's something bigger than me. I never felt that so close in my life. Thank goodness my parents are alive. And like, this was my first experience. It's definitely new and it's overwhelming. It's hard for me to see myself in it, but I know it's right. And I had that feeling till the end. And I think that only that connection, holding, so to speak, to Hashem's hand, I was able to go through what I went through. And it wasn't a very pleasant experience. He had a serious different medical conditions. For 10 months, I took care of him. And it was difficult on a human level. But that strength is only from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was not my own strength. Looking back, I was not physically equipped to go through it on my own. And I feel Hashem puts it in front of us. This world has its challenges, but only if we invite him in with us, we actually able to go through it.
Can I ask you to just extract what you just said into universal language, as you just started to actually, so that everyone listening, both live and in the recording, what is the formula, if you could distill it in very simple language that people could apply to other life challenges, whether they're involving a loved one's health, mental health, physical health, or other things that are clearly not in our control, their decisions, they're in the domain of Hashem. What should be the thought process? What should be the mindset? What would be the very first step in order to then come to that clarity of focusing on the right decisions? What's the very first step?
The very first step, you want Hashem to be with you in that process. So in order for that to happen, you have to make peace with what's in front of you. What's in front of you, it's not a mistake. It's not that God fell asleep and missed out on your kind of part of life. It's very specifically designed for this specific reincarnation, for this specific time, for this specific place. And there's a lot of blessings there. As much as our mind is not able to see it right away, you want to connect to that reality. And it's not convincing. It's not that you're trying to convince yourself. If you need, it's definitely high, I would say higher vibrations of consciousness. A person kind of trained himself throughout life to be able to be there when we are challenged, to be able to understand. My first step is to connect to God, to make sure I'm next to him. We are in peace, we are friends, we are in good terms. I'm not subconsciously or consciously fighting his reality. I want him to be by my side. And that's my job.
Just to be clear, so in order to embrace and make peace with what is, it's important to have the awareness that Hashem didn't abandon me. That's what I hear you saying, and that Hashem is just as involved in a very detailed and personal, focused way. B'hashkacha pratis, every last detail, He's intentionally, and who is He? A loving, all-powerful, all-caring Father. So everything that is happening, as painful as it is, number one, He is involved. And number two, the premise is that He knows what is best for us. He knows the journey for each character in the story. He knows the soul mission. He knows the Gilgulim. He knows the past, present, and future. And He knows how what is unfolding, whether we could see how, is certainly serving the best interest of all parties. So just the awareness that Hashem's hands are on this in full control, and His best will, His benevolence, His benevolence, His endless compassion is what's motivating what is unfolding. So that awareness, did I capture it, or is there something that you'd like to clarify?
Right. Thank you so much for paraphrasing it in such a beautiful way. I think for some of us, or in some challenges that we're facing, this immediate kind of, or almost right away approach to invite HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this whole mix could be challenging if we do not train ourselves day to day, if it's not a practice on a daily basis. I basically, the way I see it, when we are faced, we have to be already trained. We have to already know this world is about challenges. It happens here. It's a world full of conflict. I'm not going to be just like surrounded with the clouds and supportive system and I'll avoid challenges of this world. No, I make peace with the fact that there will be challenges coming my way. It's a certain agreement, again, to His world. He created this world. He wants it to be done and run this way. There's unfairness. There's a certain kind of confusion. There's a lot here. And on a daily basis, we have to always consciously go there and say, I like your world, as challenging as it is, as difficult as it is at times to understand. I like this world. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be part of it. Wow. And I'm grateful for everything. And I think if that's on a daily basis present, then when we face such huge challenges, it's easier to jump in with such intimate connection and love and appreciation and gratitude for even such things that Hashem is placing in front of us.
Can I again interrupt and try to summarize? If I didn't capture it, please clarify. What I hear you saying is, in order to face life's most difficult and most devastating challenges, such as the loss of a loved one, especially in such a painful way and in the context of a new child in the world, etc., words can't capture the full gravity, but suffice it to say, to deal with the monstrous challenges of life, it's important that we create a daily practice of building up your Bitachon muscles with the inevitable smaller and less significant challenges. That is an inevitable part of life. You also mentioned specifically that life is full of challenges. And I remember saying this at the HaBitachon. We had a HaBitachon earlier today. We gave the first opening words that I shared was, a person comes into this world not to be comfortable. Every single human being that's alive, with virtually no exception, is going to have to deal with discomfort in one form or another. The only choice we have is what form that discomfort will take. So to have good teeth, healthy teeth, is hard, and to have the consequences of not taking care of your teeth is also hard. To be healthy is hard, and refrain from too much sugar is hard, and then to have diabetes is hard. To be in shape is hard, to be out of shape is hard. to exercise is hard, and the consequences of not exercising is hard. And that's just giving a few biological examples, but the list goes on every level. Relationships, learning how to be a better parent, learning to grow in whatever industry a person is assigned to by Hashem based on their skills. In every area of life, complacency is not a way to avoid hard. Laziness is not a way to avoid hard, because on the other side of laziness, on the other side of passivity, there are hard consequences. So whether we're indulging now, instead of doing what's hard now, the hard will catch up, chas v'shalom. So Hashem designed the universe that life will always be hard. It'll never be consistently easy. Our choice is only which hard we will choose. The one that is proactive, to use your language, proactive, or the consequences of not being proactive. Now, when it comes to bitachon, the same is true. The person to put in the work up front for bitachon, it's not easy. Mentally, we have to take control. We have to take the reins of our inner dialogue. We have to carve out the time to learn about bitachon, to understand it, and then to catch ourselves, and maybe to have a bitachon coach and a discussion, or maybe a bitachon journal. But it takes effort. But that effort pays itself off many times, because the payoff is a lot more menuchas hanefesh, a lot more peace of mind, a lot less mental anguish, a lot more mental and psychological well-being, resulting from those initial efforts, initial deposits and investments in time. So, circling back to the bigger point, life is always going to be difficult. On a daily basis, Hashem is giving us these difficulties. Another way to put it is, there are two types of people who will react to when life suddenly throws us a curveball, when life throws us an uncomfortable challenge. One person knows that this is the case. He knows that this is the way it was programmed. Life is hard. Being single is hard. Being married is hard. Being a parent is hard. Chas v'shalom, not having children is hard. Every angle in life, every version of life, being rich is hard. Being poor is hard. Being middle class is hard. There's always going to be hard, no matter what gender, what financial, what socioeconomic, whatever condition you're in, it's always going to be hard. The only question is whether you're going to be in group number one, which is to make peace with it and then focus all of your energy on how to respond, what's needed of you, or option two is to waste some of your energy on resisting or pretending to be shocked, disappointed, or as if something is wrong when things seem to go wrong. The people that are bitter, the people that are miserable, are the ones who are pretending to be shocked, like something is wrong, the fact that life is so hard. Then they're adding an additional price. They're not just paying the principal, they're also paying interest needlessly, an additional cost. They're not just paying for the fact that life is hard, that's a built-in cost for living, but now they're imposing on themselves an additional layer of bitterness, trauma, and victimization, because they're seeing themselves as a victim of circumstances, as if they're being shortchanged, as if others are having the grass greener, when in reality, all the pekalach at the end of the day balance out, and the only pekalach that are lighter are the ones that have bitachon, proactively generated, to bring it back to your point. And every single day, we need to work on our bitachon. That is the key, not just to serve Hashem better, but it also serves our mental health better.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much. Do we have time for like a little
yes
addition here?
Yes, we have until 10:30. We have 14 more minutes.
Okay, and amazing. I just wanted to add like one maybe a correction here. I don't want people to program themselves and say the world has lots of problems. Problems will come for each and every one of us in order to build us up and develop. World offers a playground of different conflicts, so we could play those. We have the tools to play our lessons out through Hashem. But the fact that the world has a lot of problems, and a lot of difficulties, we don't want to program ourselves. The world offers a lot of pleasures and a lot of pleasant moments and loving moments as well. So that's one thing. It will come when it will come. This world is about conflict. This world is about duality. This world is about finding peace in the midst of conflict, in the midst of challenges, and finding God in the midst of all that. So we all come here in order to find that here, in order to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu right here in the middle of all the mess in a way. But it doesn't have to happen all the time. That's number one point that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention. And another thing is that the whole proactive communication with Hashem on a day-to-day basis. If you think about it, this is the only real relationship that we have. All other relationships that we have, they kind of come out from how deep and how well connected and how vital and alive this particular relationship is. And every one of us, being married to a Breslau B'choset, he taught me a lot about his bodhrus, talking to Hashem daily from your own words, telling him, hey, dude, like he said, you're walking into the fields and you say, hey, dude, this is the words of my husband. Talking to him freely, not like with honor and deep respect. We built a different type of connection with Hashem. And if you look at every relationship that we have in our life, that imbalance that we carry with Hashem shines through there. If people don't hear me, or I don't understand them, or they misinterpret me, or they betray me, or they put me down, or I lost something, or I gained something, or it was not fair, I was not fairly treated. It's all rooted in my connection with Hashem. It all starts there. It's like a seed that grows into a big tree, and then we see openly what was wrong in the seed. So I think the investment in meditation, or with your own words prayer, or wanting to be a loving presence no matter what happens, it's just like a statement. Like I said, when this whole challenge started kind of taking our attention, I said, Hashem, all I want is to please you. Tell me exactly what is it, and lead me. How is it that you want me to act out here? I know I have to be with gratitude and support to my husband, and gratitude to you, and acceptance that there is nothing wrong here. Cancer, schmancer, all this stuff, there is absolute rightness in all that, as crazy as this could sound.
Can I jump in?
Time,
hold on.
Yes.
Just on what you just said, is it accurate to say, in your opinion, that anyone who does not practice what it says in Pirkei Avos, to submit your will to Hashem's will, anyone who fails to practice dedicating their life to the will of Hashem, in other words, they hold on to their default settings, will inevitably come up empty-handed, short-handed, and disappointed. In other words, Hashem designed the universe in such a way that if a person holds on tight and is deeply attached to pursuing and having what they want, one way or another, sooner or later, they will be left with a leaky bag, or with a vessel that is not holding the blessings they were chasing, because they were ignoring and shutting Hashem's agenda out from their equation, from their intention. And the only choice we really have is to make peace with the fact that our default settings we came into the world with are just a test. They're not real. We're not going to achieve it by focusing on it. The best way to live is to make peace with the real relationship, as you put it, the only relationship worth our full attention, and that is the relationship we have with Hashem. And then, ironically and counterintuitively, everything, all the other parts of our life that we naturally care about, will be blessed as a result, as a secondary side effect, a positive side effect of having let go of all pursuing the other agendas, the other itches that we have naturally, and focusing on I am here to serve Hashem, and as a result, I will end up having healthier, happier relationships, healthier, happier physical health, better finances, better mental health, better inner peace, more nachas, better health. All the blessings, chaya zara kayama, I will have healthier children by focusing on complying with the instructions or with the will of Hashem. So our focus has to be that I'm only in one real relationship in this world, and that is with Hashem. And all the other relationships are informed, not just benefited by, but they're really aspects of my relationship with Hashem. So these are opportunities for me to flex my bitachon with Hashem. All those relationships are opportunities for me to show my loyalty to Hashem. All those relationships are ways for me to connect with Hashem by showing up in those relationships with the question, how does Hashem want me to respond? How does Hashem want me to see this? How does Hashem want me to act in this situation?
Right. Yeah. So it's one of the 10 commandments, to do not create another kind of idol, right? And I think when we put attention and prioritize, and a lot of coaches speak like your marriage is number one, and this is number one, and your children's number one, and your community is not your job, your career. And I say, no, first things first. All wisdom and understanding how to take care of those precious relationships that we are gifted only will come through connection with Hashem. If you build solidly and constantly invest in it, this is the resource that you will have to kind of offer to other relationship as well. Not vice versa. Not that you have good relationship with your wife and husband, and from that you will be able to serve God better. It doesn't work that way. As much as we want to assume or imagine that, no. Each one of us has only one real connection that lasts forever. All the other relationships definitely will stop existing. It was programmed that way. It was meant that way. It has to come and go. We hope it will last for long, but it will go. And the only one real connection forever that will remain is our connection to Hashem.
Beautiful. Can I just jump in again to take what you just said, the principle, and give one practical example? If someone has bitachon in Hashem, we can call that secure attachment. Mm-hmm. Bitachon literally in Hebrew means security. How can I, as a parent or as a husband or as a friend in the community of someone going through a crisis, how can I be a supportive and grounding solid rock or a solid tree for someone to feel safe in my support of them, in my holding them, in my providing them with support, if I myself am on shaky grounds, if I myself am anxious, if I myself am not inwardly settled, if I don't feel securely held by someone much more powerful than any force in the universe, if I don't feel, if my nervous system is not settled, how can I possibly make someone else's nervous system, someone else's energy relax? So the kindest thing we can do for those we love and for those we wish to support and for those whose anxiety we want to help settle and release them from, the kindest thing we can do for them is to develop our own sense of security, our own bitachon. Another way to say it is, relationships are meant to teach us lessons, to make us aware of our triggers, to make us aware of the areas in which we're maybe not practicing bitachon. The more bitachon I have, the less emotionally vulnerable, triggerable, upsettable, annoyable will I be in response to the behavior of a loved one, of a significant other, of a child, of a teenager, or of my parents. The things that would have triggered me, that would have upset me in a world where my bitachon isn't strong, suddenly do not upset me. I suddenly see them as, at the very least, as challenges. I see them as there's no there's no skin off my back based on what that person does, because they can't help me, they can't harm me. So I show up to each relationship without any stress, without any agenda, without any feeling that the other person can help me or harm me, that I need to control it. I show up only with compassion in my heart, because my cup is full, my bank account is already overflowing. My sense of security does not rest or is not attached to what the other person does. So I could show up without being triggered. So number one, I could support them better when I feel supported by Hashem. And number two, they can't rock or upset my equilibrium, because with a Bitachon mindset, they have no power to adversely affect my interests.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just one practical illustration of what you were saying, how a person's Bitachon, their relationship with Hashem, the fruit of that tree is an uplifting and a resilience and an optimization of all other relationships in our life. Not just with people, but with our health, with our finances, in every category.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%.
We have 2 minutes. You have the last word.
Do we open ground for questions?
We will, but we officially opened it for 1 hour. So those who want to jump off, by all means. But this part of the presentation ends in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Okay, so I just want to conclude another one point which I find extremely helpful and resourceful. If as much as we want to separate spiritual and material and like really dwell in kind of ideas and concepts on Bitachon and Emunah, etc., supporting yourself with physical activities, time alone, setting time alone, journaling, eating right, sleeping well, all those things definitely serve as a support system for those biggest accomplishments in relationship to God and Emunah and Bitachon, and building that relationship deeper, becoming more connected, intuitively connected, receiving, so to speak, His connection, His presence. All that creates like a specific vibration. I'm a strong believer in eating right for your constitution and sleeping well and taking walks, doing right exercise. I think all of it is part of one package. And I think that's it.
Wow. So well said. You covered so much. I wonder if there's any questions, because you may have answered all of them. Is there anyone that has a question, a life situation to which you'd like to apply a Bitachon approach? This is a free session. If it's at any other time, you would have to pay. You have to carve out time to get time with our life coach.
How do we ask a question?
Exactly the way you just did. You can introduce your first name, either your actual first name or a pseudonym for the purpose of the question.
I'm Yosef. I actually joined from you. Thank you, Rabbi. I'm just really much enjoying this. And it really, thank you so much very thankful for this program. And I hope you keep doing this as much as possible. And I'd love to hear it more and more. And I hope everybody joins this, lots of people. Thank you.
Thank you for your warm words and feedback and encouragement. Every Motzei Shabbos by default. Sometimes we've been doing it Thursday nights, but it seems more practical, at least for the foreseeable future, that we'll be doing the interactives, the discussions, the long form Motzei Shabbos. The other nights of the week, we're just going to learn from the text of Shaar HaBitachon. So thank you. Did you have a question as well?
No, basically just I wanted to know if they were going to have more of these programs, and I'd love to share with my friends and everything. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's because of guests like Miriam Geltman that this becomes as high quality content and life-changing content and insight as it is. So thank you, Miriam Geltman. How could people contact you if they want to book a session with you.
I could share my contact information in the group if that's okay.
Correct.
My phone
That there
number
will
and
be people
numbers.
that might get just the audio recording without any context. So is there an email address or a phone number people can text or email?
561-303-4761.
Excellent. If there's anyone else that has a question, simply unmute yourself, and the first one to do so will be the question that we're going to end with.
Can I ask the question? Unless someone else has an urgent question.
Please ask.
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Batya. How do we deal in terms of bitachon with character traits that we really want to change? I know one way that I've heard is just to look at every even minuscule improvement, like let's say patience, or, it's very hard when it's not only character traits, but let's say insecurity around people or fear of people, or everything is from Kadosh Baruch Hu, but when it comes to like midos, it's hard when we get Rabbi Nachman calls it getting the chait after the chait is being upset that you got upset. I think, but how do we deal with like when we're trying again and again and again to fix certain traits, and it just seems to keep on coming back, and it's very frustrating.
Can you just practicalize your question? So could you specify a trait as something that's more relatable? Sure.
Let's say patient. No. Okay, I'm going to change it from character traits to insecurity around people. Okay, let's say a person has a fear of people. They just find that they constantly feel... No, let's say patience, okay? I don't love sitting and schmoozing for hours and hours, but sometimes it's hard to if you're at a Shabbos table or something, and then I'll get upset at myself for not being gracious enough or being able to just sit and schmooze when other people can. I think there's a lot of comparison that probably is a lack of bitachon. When we comparing my midot to how I perceive other people's midot to be, like I might get impatient at person X when let's say Dina doesn't get impatient with person X, and then I will judge myself, and then I'm saying, Hashem, why did you give me a lack of impatience? I'm trying, but we're supposed to have good midos, and then when I don't, I feel like it's not. How come I have a challenge in this area? I guess that's the bottom line. But I guess we're all here for different things.
Can I paraphrase the question, please?
Sure.
Okay, so is your concern that you're facing a midah that is not recommended by Pirkei Avos, that's not recommended by Musar Svarim, or is your concern that despite your efforts, you don't seem to be moving the dial in the direction of minimizing that midah? What's your question?
I think it's both. I think the second part relates more to bitachon. Yeah. When
Miriam.
I daven about being more patient, or I daven about this and I don't, and I still feel like I fall into the same thing. Some of it has to do with cutting ourselves some slack. I'll be very honest. Sometimes I have a very high expectation of myself, which may also be a lack of bitachon. I'm just curious again how you address all this, if it's clear.
Miriam, before you respond, could you just paraphrase what you understood her question to be? Because I'm not 100% clear. If you feel you understood it, could you just tell us the question you're about to answer?
Yes. I think from what I understood, thank you so much for opening up and sharing your concerns, your personal concerns. It's really inspiring. I think what I got from your question, when you feel impatient, how do you perfect it, and how do you work on it? What's the right process in working on it? Is it right?
That's partly, and the second part is, I guess I feel like it seems that other people were given a bigger chilek. They've been given more patience than I was, and I feel like Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm trying so hard, but you've really given me something that's just very hard for me to work on. Let's just say it was patience, and that's not always patience, but yeah.
All right. Well, it's an example. So
Sure.
Besides the fact that you want to know how to work on it on your own, you also feel like you compare yourself to others, and other people have more blessings there and more confidence and more abilities, etc. So number one, briefly here, I would be able to give few tools. if we want to change anything, we have to first accept it. And it obviously feels to me that you are fighting it. You don't like that inability or disability or dysfunction in you, or media that is not fully developed. You kind of dislike that and you push it away. In order to fix anything, you have to say, I'm so grateful that I have some midas, if that's midas or character traits or whatever you want to call it. Some are not as developed as others. They're all mine. It's all one big mix. And I'm welcoming back home. I need to bring it back. It's my energy. It's mine. And there are some developed parts in me that could be in charge of this, so to speak, dragging behind part of me. You are in charge. You in a way with Bitachon as well. There's certain parts in us that could feel stuck and feel like they don't know what to do and how to respond. But there's other more mature parts in us, in our complex human kind of gestalt in a way, right? Built or creation as we are. We are multi-level beings. They are much more mature and more connected to God and more aware of God's presence. So you want those higher parts of you, or more developed, more deeper parts of you, take under the wings of those that are not yet there, and feel that connection, that inner conflict has to first be solved, right, inside you. And when we start comparing ourselves to others, they are faced with certain challenges that you are not faced. Certain things are more difficult for them, whereas for you, it's not even a question. You're much more developed, and you don't have challenges there. So when we start comparing, you just remind yourself their soul is going their own path, and there are different complications there, and there are some easy parts for them that might look to me that how come they have and I don't have. Does that answer at all?
Yes, it's also to accept it as opposed to just, first of all, judging it. This is who I am. This is what Hashem gave me to work on. I'm not a bad person because I have this. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu created me with this whatever, let's say, impatience. And every small improvement is meritorious, basically. And everyone right.
Yeah, if you take by hand your impatience, if you hold, like energetically, if you look inside and you say, I got this, I got your back, you take the impatience under your wing with the more developed and mature parts of you, and feel like you're bringing back inside all of you. Because right now you're tearing yourself apart. You kind of shipping one part away because it's not suitable, not fixable, schlepping you behind, like you're not approving it. And there's other parts feel sorry for that, or they can't really perform as well, even with those little immature parts. They need that energy, they need that wholesomeness in a way. So I want to suggest, collect yourself, good and bad, immature and mature. Everything is yours, and give your love to all those parts. And then you will know what to do intuitively.
Thank you. Sounds like internal family systems. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. This is such a important opportunity that we have with Miriam. I feel like if only we had more time, it would be really, really of benefit. For each question that comes in, there's so many people listening now and then to the recordings later that will benefit. So I would like to thank you, Miriam. Is there anyone else that wants to ask a quick question? Because we're well over time, Baruch Hashem, 12 minutes over our initial intention. But this is so important, and it's not often that we have someone of Miriam's caliber. So if there's someone else that has a question, a quick question that they wanted to Shaar, now is your opportunity.
I want to say something quickly.
Please.
Miriam, I want to thank you because this time that you spent with us here gives so much clarity on so many areas in which we learned in the Sefer itself of Bitachon, and you gave it extreme clarity based on your life experience, and you're willing to share it with us on how to actually internalize and work through these things. So as one example, as I was listening to you, and one big problem with the Emunah Bitachon is the concept of worry, the worry that comes in, the fear, the anxiety, the worry about the future. And when you talked about how right now you're not meant to handle something that you can't handle at this moment, it wasn't given to you yet, that koyach, because right now you don't have that test yet. And so, of course, you won't be able to handle some future burden that's not there yet. But for today and for now, you have what it takes to handle it and deal with it because Hashem gave it to you, and He has your back. And that was a tremendous insight. That's just one of many, many things that you said and that you spoke about today that can be internalized. So I really want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Just you saying this, Reb Meir, helped me realize how profound that insight is. With Bitachon, I don't have to worry about tomorrow. I can be fully present. Wow.
And the way you answered this last person's question just now also, because again, one of the biggest things I think all of us struggle with is Bitachon is hard work, but when we say the word hard work, we think we have to do more and fight and challenge head on this, or in patience in this person's case, or other things that we struggle with. And paradoxically, the opposite is true, is based on what you're saying, to love all the parts and to accept it all. And that's when true change emerges, and that's when real strength comes out, and you're more productive in that way. Or even what you said about taking care of your health, which is a mitzvah. Hashem wants you to do that with the adequate sleep and eating healthy and all of those things, which is what is aligned with what Hashem wants. Even though life has its hardships, but we put it in a framework where He wants the best for us, and He wants us to love ourselves and accept ourselves and trust Him, and it allows our inner potential to come out naturally. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, and for those who are listening just to the recording, I want to know how they could join the daily dose of Shaar HaBitachon, where we learn from Rabbeinu Bachia's text, The Gate of Trust. Simply send a WhatsApp with the word join to +1718 207 1736. Thanks again, Miriam Geltman. And please also give us your number once more.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening and for being here for me and for everyone else. My phone number is 561-303-4761. Love you all and Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Thank you to all.